In this video, we are going to be discussing some of the shifters of supply that we looked at in a previous video. We're going to go a little bit more in depth in this video versus when I just kind of introduced those in one of the earlier ones. Before we actually start looking at these shifters, I do want to say something that I'm probably going to say at the beginning of each of these videos. Almost all of these shifters of supply have to do with changing the costs of production. Right? This is because, as we discussed earlier, the supply curve is based off of costs. Right? How much does it cost a producer to make a good? Right? Are they going to be able to actually sell it for, are they going to be able to break even or make a profit? Right? That's going to determine whether or not they are going to actually provide that good. So it's really based very much on costs, and most of these are going to have to do with increasing or decreasing the cost of production, and that's the avenue through which they change supply. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and start looking at this first one, technological innovation. So what technological innovation does is it allows producers to be more efficient, right? It allows producers to produce a good more efficiently. All right, so when producers are able to produce something more efficiently, and so this could take many different forms, right? Whether you have something that is going to allow you to spend less time making a good so that you can then reinvest that time into making more of it or into doing something else that's going to increase your production capabilities, right? Or you have something that reduces the number of inputs needed in order to produce this good, or whether that's capital or whether that's labor, whatever it is, right? Reducing those costs, right, makes production more efficient, right? It means that for the kind of same quantity of a good, that a producer can provide more of it. Right, so when we are talking about technological innovation, most of the time we might just think of machinery and things like that, but technological innovation can apply to just about anything, and my bow tie is extremely crooked. That's not, because I'm looking at it in a mirror. There we go. That's not better. Okay, anyways, we're going to try to ignore that. So it's not just it's not just machines, right? Technological innovation can refer to a lot of other things, right? It might be kind of more of a concept or an idea about the way to do things, right? Kind of organizational structure, or just how you plan your workspace, right? Something like the assembly line, right? While the assembly line is, there's probably some mechanism involved that creates that ability to have an assembly line. The idea of an assembly line is not a machine itself, right? But that is still technological innovation, right? And led to a huge increase in productivity, both in the automobile industry, where it was kind of originated, and in other industries, right? Things like the invention of the internet, definitely technological innovation, right? Any job that requires people to transmit information over long distances instantly got a lot more efficient, right? If I can email you a document for you to sign and have you email it back to me, that's a lot quicker than if I have to put it in the mail, right? Ship it to you, you get it, sign it, and then put it back in the mail and send it to me, right? So reducing the time it takes to do things, right? Increasing that efficiency. Right. But of course, technological innovation can be new technologies as well, right? I'd say the invention of the internet is more of a machine than kind of the idea of the assembly line, but also anything else along those lines. Anything that makes production more efficient, right? That would be kind of technological innovation, assuming that it was created, right? It was innovated. All right, so when we are looking at this, let's just go ahead and write down what happens when we have technological innovation, just so we have it down. I probably should have just kept technological innovation written up there. All right, we'll write most of these in kind of a shorthand, but this one's pretty simple. We don't really need it. All right, just straightforward, technological innovation increases supply. All right, most of the time this is the way we're going to be looking at it, right, as a new process for producing a good or a new machine or new technology of some kind, right, is introduced that increases efficiency, right, that's going to increase supply. We're not often going to see the counter to this, where kind of the reduction in technology and the reduction of kind of products that make production more efficient, but that is possible, right? So, for example, if all of the electrical stuff in the world stopped working tomorrow, right, that would kind of be the flip side of this, right? So that would be kind of technological regression, you could say, and that would cause a huge decrease in supply, right? Because without kind of electrical, kind of anything electrical, a lot of jobs, one, in the short run, could not be done at all. In the long run, you would have to switch back to more kind of older and less efficient ways of producing things, right? So just kind of as a silly example, let's say that you're a carpenter, right? You probably, there are a lot of power tools and stuff that you're going to be using, chop saws, nail guns that need a compressor to work, right? So on and so forth. If you don't have any electricity, and none of those things work, right? Then you're going to have to go back to older ways of doing things. Instead of being able to use a nail gun, you have to just hammer the nails in yourself, which is going to take longer, all right? If you don't have a drill, you're going to have to use one of those little crank ones, right? If you don't have a chop saw, you'll have to use a handsaw, so on and so forth, right? So that's going to make it more time consuming, right, to build something, or you're going to have to hire more workers to complete things in a similar amount of time, right? And so we see a decrease in supply. All right, again, that's going to be very rare, all right, or really just doesn't happen, especially in the long run. Nothing gets kind of completely wiped out anymore, right? We're not going to just lose the ability to do anything electrical, just carte blanche across the entire globe. We probably figure some stuff out, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so let's look at an example. All right, we talked about what shifting curves looks like, but let's actually put it into practice, all right, and maybe illuminate some things a little bit more. All right, so all right, so let's say that we are looking at the market for canned soda. All right, and before we get our shock up here, let's go ahead and put in, all right, our original demand curve, our original supply curve. Remember that it needs to be upward sloping, right? We want to label it, right? Notate it with a capital S, and if we are going to be doing something like shifting curves and showing these curves being shifted, right, we need to give it a subscript so you know what's the original curve and what's the curve after the shock. All right, so let's say that our shock is that a machine is invented we're just kind of try to keep it somewhat simple. All right, there's a machine invented that actually puts the soda in a can more quickly, right? So again, saving time. So if you're this isn't really how it works, but let's imagine there's an 8-hour day in which this factory or factories in general produce these canned sodas, right? If you can now put soda into the can faster, right, you can produce more cans of soda, right, in the same 8-hour day, we can kind of say. All right, so that's going to be technological innovation, that is our shock. Right, so technological innovation, right, that's an increase, right, in technology level, or again, technological innovation, something new is created, something more productive, right, so that is going to increase supply. Now, as we already discussed, when we increase supply, we're going to shift our curve to the right, right, because we want to see that increase, right. Let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say kind of at a price of 50 originally, the market would supply 200 cans of soda, right? Then when we have this shock, we have our machine that makes it quicker to produce these goods, right? That reduces the cost of producing the soda, right? So now the producers are willing to produce even more soda at that same price, right? So again, a shift in supply, that's going to mean, right, for the same price, we would have two different quantities supplied. Again, kind of taking the entire curve and moving it, right? So shifting all of those kind of pairs of price and quantity that make up the curve itself, right? And actually, the kind of the difference, right, between these two, or even you could say the difference between kind of what the price is at 200 originally and what it would be at the new curve, right? That would essentially be the difference in costs, all right? So how much, you know, how much are you saving, all right? How much money are you saving per can, all right, based on the invention of this machine, right? Because it's going to lower the cost by that much, so that is the new cost at which kind of, if you can produce, right? Or we'd also look at it this way. I'm kind of rambling, but we're gonna get there in a second. And look at it this way. All right, at 50 cents, we're gonna say it's in cents. So 50 cents per can, right? There were 200 suppliers that could kind of at least break even, right? So at least break even, maybe make a profit, right, at a price of 50 cents per can, right? But when we have this new technology, right, some of the existing people that create soda or make soda, they're going to increase the amount they're going to make, and potentially we will have some individuals that can now break even or make a profit at 50 cents, right, that couldn't before, right? And both of those groups would be what contributes to this increase of 250, or to the increase to 250. All right, but that's it for our technological innovation. Let's see, I think we could probably fit in at least one more of these. Which is price of inputs. Right, so we'll probably just kind of start with what happens. There's not a whole lot to say about this one, I'll go ahead and tell you. This one is kind of one of the most straightforward ones, especially if we understand that idea that changes to the cost of production change supply. All right, what's going to change the cost of production more directly than the price of one of the inputs changing? All right, so again, this is going to be similar to the price of related goods for demand, right? So remember that the price of the good that we're looking at, in this case, we're going to continue looking at canned soda, right? The price of canned soda is not changing, right? But one of the price of one of the inputs is, right? And so there is a distinction there, right? If the price of inputs increases, right, that's going to be an increase in the cost of production. That means that some producers are going to cut back production, right, to get their costs down to match that. Some producers are just going to be unable to produce anything and make you know, break even or make a profit, so they're going to leave the market, right? And so we're going to see a decrease in supply. right? On the flip side, if the price of inputs goes down, right, now the producers that are already in the market can potentially have more money to make more of the good, increasing supply, right, at the same price, right? And you also have some producers who are now able to break even. Once again, that's kind of how all of this works, right? That are now able to break even and will join the market as well, so increasing supply. Right, those are the basics for the price of inputs. Again, these are prices of goods that are related to what we're talking about, in this case directly through kind of these go into making this, those are the prices that are changing, not the price of the good we are actually looking at. All right, so here we have our kind of canned soda, and let's see. Let's do this. All right, let's say that where our supply curve hits the price axes that we're at 20. All right, so at 20 cents, no suppliers are providing canned soda, right? So canned soda is just, it's not cost effective for them to produce it, right? They're not going to make their money back. They're not going to make a profit. All right, so let's say that our shock let's say that the price of the aluminum cans that the soda is going into increases. The price of that increases by 5 cents. All right, so this would be price of inputs. We know that the price of these inputs are going up. So maybe I should have given myself a little bit more room. Made this graph too big. All right, so price cans up 5 cents. All right, so price of input, that's going up. Hopefully, I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but price of input increasing. All right, so we know that's going to lead to a decrease in supply. All right. So the reason I put actual numbers in this when usually we don't is because let's think of this, all right? So if kind of the price at 20, nobody's producing this, and then the way this would work is kind of the next step, you know, the next increment up, probably I guess at 21 cents, right? Maybe some people start, or actually no, guaranteed some people start producing it, and as the price increases, that quantity supplied increases as well. Right, so but at 20, nobody's going to make any money, so nobody's going to provide it. All right, so we can kind of use that as our benchmark. If you needed, more than 20 cents to be willing to produce this good beforehand, so again, those are your costs, right? If you produce something, then you're going to at least want to break even, right? So if you're not going to break even at 20 before this change in the price of the cans, right, then after the fact, when we add an additional 5 cents to the cost of production, right, then what are you going to need to get above to be able to break even, right? The answer to that is you're going to need 25 cents, right? Because right, let's say, well, just to simplify things, let's say that I break even at 20 cents. Right? Well, it already cost me 20 cents. Well, yeah, that's what that means, right? So it costs me 20 cents per can of soda to produce it, right? And so I can break even at 20 cents. If I have to start paying 5 more cents for each aluminum can that I put that soda in, right? Now I'm not breaking even at 20, right? Now I'm making a loss. I'm making a 5 cent loss per unit on these canned sodas. So I would have to increase the price I need to get me to break even and to get me to participate in the market has to go up by 5, right? And so we can see that's why a decrease in supply is a shift to the right, right? Because that's the way we would see a higher price at the same quantity, or conversely, a lower quantity at the same price, right? So if we put a price right here, right, it would hit the purple curve first and then the black curve. And black curve's the original, so that would mean that you're decreasing that quantity, right? Kind of fundamentally, that is what decreasing supply is. Right, but that is kind of how, changes to the price of inputs are going to impact supply. All right, so remember technological innovation, right? When we have technological innovation, we're going to see the supply of that good, or of an affected good, increase. Right? If we have, somehow we have technological regression, then we're going to see the supply of those goods decrease. Right? When we get into the inputs, the price of inputs, right? As the price of inputs rise, supply will decrease, and as the price of an input decreases, supply will increase. All right, so we're going to call it there for this video. In the next video, we'll at least start with the idea of taxes and subsidies. That one might be a video that's just one single thing, but we'll see when we get there. All right, but regardless of that, I will see you in the next video.